program is The Active Center. It's created by David Sappe.
Pronounced Seppi.
Pronounced Seppi. Okay, let's dig into this source material on American exceptionalism.
Absolutely.
Our goal is pretty simple, really. We want to quickly distill the foundational philosophy and, the fierce modern debate around this whole idea that the U.S. is fundamentally unique.
It's a huge topic.
It is. So exceptionalism at its core defines the U.S. as inherently distinct, maybe even exemplary. You always hear that phrase, a city upon a hill.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting, like right off the bat. The term wasn't some patriotic boast, not at first.
No, it came from a very different place.
It was coined by German Marxists in the 1920s. Get this. They needed a word to explain why the U.S. was the exception to Marx's prediction.
The prediction that advanced capitalist nations would just inevitably face intense class conflict and then, a communist revolution.
Exactly. And America wasn't following the script.
What they realized was that the U.S. never had that traditional feudal past, and it lacked the sort of unified, powerful socialist labor movement you saw in Europe.
But the deeper distinction is the foundation, isn't it?
That's the key. The U.S. was the first nation built not on shared tradition or family or race.
But on a creed, a universal philosophical creed.
Exactly. And that creed is rooted in these abstract, self-evident truths.
Natural rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and this fundamental idea of popular sovereignty.
The idea that government's legitimacy comes directly from the consent of the governed.
Which was revolutionary.
Completely. And these concepts were then institutionalized, really, by the Enlightenment thinkers. You see it right in the Declaration of Independence.
1776, yeah.
It draws so heavily from John Locke's natural rights philosophy, and it turns what was a local revolt over taxes into this grand revolution for universal human rights.
It sets this transcendent philosophical tone.
It does. And then you get the U.S. Constitution in 1787, which basically institutionalizes that theory. It deliberately builds a stable system through reflection and choice.
That new order of the ages, the novus ordo seclorum. So when people hear Montesquieu and checks and balances, they think it's just about splitting power. But was the real genius here the intentional design to actually restrain power?
Exactly. The core philosophy is what we'd call classical liberalism. For you, the elevator pitch is this. It's a system designed to prioritize individualism.
Which is why we have the Bill of Rights.
Precisely. Individualism and economic freedom, through free market capitalism, all while actively trying to minimize collective state power.
And that strong focus on the individual, on limited government. That's where the modern critics really take issue, right?
It's the exact point of contention. They see exceptionalism as this dangerous, nationalistic propaganda that it obscures systemic injustices.
The sources show that critics, and this includes those aligned with the Zen Education Project, argue that history has to be viewed through an oppressed binary.
A different lens.
A very different lens. And they contend this approach is necessary because otherwise you're minimizing atrocities like slavery, Jim Crow, the displacement of Native Americans, all to maintain this uncritical narrative.
What's fascinating here, though, is the defense you see from the classical liberal consensus school.
Their rebuttal.
Their argument is that you cannot equate the nation's historical failures with its foundational ideals.
They seem to argue that the nation's creed gives you the very moral vocabulary for self-correction.
Yes.
I mean, the civil rights movement didn't succeed by rejecting the system, but by appealing directly to the Declaration's promise that all men are created equal.
It used the creed against the hypocrisy. Furthermore, they just reject the rigidity of that oppressed binary.
Oh, so?
By emphasizing individual agency, meritocracy, and social mobility. They claim the system is fundamentally designed to allow people to transcend rigid class structures.
So progress is built on individual moral choice and striving, not just group identity.
That's the argument.
So if we connect all this to the bigger picture, this philosophical commitment, it almost acts as the moral and intellectual cement.
To unify a diverse, multi-ethnic population around shared ideas, not a shared ethnicity.
Which gives it this ongoing global significance.
For sure. This commitment to individual rights serves as a primary global alternative to rising authoritarianism.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with something to think about.
The final provocative thought for you to carry forward is probably this. The enduring value in understanding this is that America's capacity for progress is rooted in the universality of its founding documents. Knowing those ideals gives you the vocabulary to be an effective reformer.
Because
Because if you don't know the promise, you can't argue for its fulfillment.